You're listening to the Hire Calling Podcast, your source for all things hiring, staffing, and recruiting. My guest today is Julia Arpag, CEO and founder of Aligned Recruitment. Julia, how are you today?
Hi, Pete. I'm great. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's really nice to connect. You have your headphones now. You didn't have them the
Yes,
first time we tried, but here we are.
that's
We're
correct.
doing this.
Yep. I'm happy. I'm prepared. Here we go.
Well, good. Well, let's get right into it then. I just want to start by getting a feel for your recruiting background. I've read your story. I know it, but share that with us if you could.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So, I first started recruiting actually as an admissions counselor at a college, back right out of college myself. I had so much fun. I was an English major, so I had literally no career prospects. And so I went into admissions and it was such a blast. And then my husband and I moved from New York down to Atlanta for his job. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I ended up landing in corporate recruitment. Like I got an internal recruitment role at a headquarters here in Atlanta. Did that for about a year and then pivoted to agency recruiting. So I've been doing agency recruiting since the end of 2018.
And eventually you decided to go out on your own. So
Yes.
we all
Yeah.
have this journey, right? Anyone
Right.
who starts a company, I have my story.
hmm
What was there a catalyst that was kind of a light bulb moment where you said, now's the time, I need to do it?
It was a pretty significant catalyst, as you know, from my LinkedIn post. So, August 2023, the CEO of the tech recruitment startup I was working at the time called me and he was like, hey, I know you had a baby 5 weeks ago, but there's no money left. So, I have to lay you off. Like, I just have to lay. He was like, I haven't paid myself in months. There's our $0. So, I don't even hold that against him. Like, whenever I tell people that story, they're horrified. But I'm like, you can't make money grow on a money tree. So he was in a tough spot. Like I feel for him now that I'm a founder. I'm like, man, that would be a terrible phone call to have to make. So it was actually perfect because I'd been thinking about going out on my own for about a year at that point, but it just felt so terrifying. Like there was so much I didn't know. There, again, I have kids. I had 4 kids at the time. We have 2 biological sons, the one who was 5 weeks old then, and another who was 2 years old then. And then we are also foster parents. So we've had kids in and out of our home for the past 4.5 years.
Oh,
So at the
wow.
time, we also had 2 teenage foster sons. So it just felt really scary to lose the stability of a full-time salary. But then when I got laid off, I was like, oh, there actually is no stability in a full-time W-2 salary. And if anything, if you own a business and you lose a client, that's okay because you have other clients. So you don't lose all your income overnight. But if you're a W-2 employee and you lose your job, you lose all your income overnight. So that really is the kick I needed to get out of the nest. And I started the business like 3 weeks later. I had a co founder at the time. She had already spun up the website, but she was like, hey, I haven't closed a single client and it's been 4 months. Like, you seem like you're really good at this. Can you come help me? So, sure enough, I closed 3 clients in our first month. And I was like, this feels like an inequitable partnership. So I ended up buying her out, which I definitely stand by that decision. And so we've been running the business for almost 2 years now.
I love it. I love it. Well, if it makes you feel better, I think you'll appreciate my catalyst was my 53-year-old vice president of sales getting laid off from his job, who I reported to at a very large company. Now I'm 54 now, so this really resonates with me. And that was a panic moment for me. I looked at this situation and said, this is what I'm aspiring to, the job I'm aspiring to be in. There is no security in this. So I made the decision. I had talked about starting a staffing company for a decade before actually doing it. And I told my wife, I remember exactly where we were. We were in the parking lot of a Publix around the corner from our house. She was pregnant with our third child. And I said, I'm quitting and I'm going to start my staffing company in a few months. And her line that I've repeated so many times over the years was, just don't be stressed when the baby comes. That's all I ask. And I'm like, well, that's impossible. So I may
Yeah,
as well
right.
be stressed on my own with my fate in my own hands versus waiting for the axe to fall because someone else decided, that for me. And so,
Yep.
I think anyone who goes out on a ledge and does it probably realizes that's not the real risk. The risk is not
Mm-mm.
not taking a chance of betting on yourself.
Yes, I completely agree with that now.
Yeah, it's the world doesn't encourage us to do that though, does it? At
It
least
doesn't, because so personally, I didn't know any entrepreneurs growing up. I shouldn't say that. My aunt and uncle are entrepreneurs, but they're lived in like another state. They like felt so far away. My parents had like the same steady job for their whole lives. My dad just retired from teaching last year. My mom's retiring from being a nurse practitioner this year. Like they were very traditional in their path. So I just saw like really no examples, and I saw they did have a lot of stability. Like, if you're a teacher, you have a pension. Like you're golden. Like you have to really suck to get fired from being a teacher.
right.
So I saw these examples of W-2s being stable growing up. And then obviously it's, years and years and years later than it was when I was a kid. I'm 35 now. So the world has changed, but also the industry I've chosen is very different from the industries my parents chose. Like I chose tech, I chose recruitment, and my parents didn't. So I think I've learned in the space I've chosen, yes, there is actually a lot more stability going out on my own. And it does take a lot of self-reliance though, and a lot of self-confidence. Like if you're not a top performer, I actually don't think you should go out on your own, because you probably won't be able to make it, because the rest of us are out here, like, to put it bluntly, kicking ass and taking names. So you just can't compete.
I couldn't agree more. And I noticed you wrote something similar to that in a LinkedIn post, and it really
Yeah.
resonated with me because I was a top performer as an employee, and I
Mhm.
felt guilty. I always wanted to do something on my own, but I felt guilty taking that time away from my job. And I would see other people do things on the side. And I always thought, well, that doesn't seem right to me. You have to be the
Hmm.
best at whatever it is you're doing at that moment.
Mhm.
And I realized, as many of us do who take the step, well, I could be the best for myself or I could be the best for someone else. And if you have that work ethic, that is a huge component of in my opinion, of what's going to determine your success or failure if you go out on your own. Is no
Yes.
one's watching you. And if you're not able and willing to perform when no one's looking over your shoulder, and I had operated that way for years as a sales rep in the technology space, I knew I would do it and be
Mhm.
motivated and didn't need anyone to help me. But I don't
Mhm.
think that's the case for a lot of people. I think they realize that the hard way when they go out on their own.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, if you're not the top producer on your team, you should not start your own company. Like you just don't have the drive, the motivation, the discipline, the perseverance. I know I'm going to get pushback on that, but that is 100% what I believe.
I'm with you. Well, look, I mean, our experience is certainly back that up, and I think it's good advice for anyone who's thinking of going on their own. But you mentioned
Mhm.
something I want to go back to, that the industry is very different than what your parents worked in, of course.
Mhm.
But I would say our industry is very different today than it was even in 2023. It's changing rapidly, both
That's a
due
good
to the
call. That's true. I would
yeah,
agree
I
with
mean,
that.
well, you'll appreciate this. When I left recruiting in early in my career and got away from it into technology sales, when I came back in 2000, December 2005 is when I started Four Corner. There were no job boards when I learned to recruit. That wasn't a thing.
Wow.
So coming into the world of, at the time it was Monster, they were the 800-pound gorilla, and then Career Builder was coming on the scene. That was all new to me. So
Mhm.
the industry had changed a lot then, but now it's changing almost on a monthly basis, it seems, with
Mhm.
AI. What's your take
Yes.
on that?
I'm so excited, Pete. So let me be fully transparent about my almost 2 years of running the business. I have realized about myself, I can hire back end operations team members for my team, no problem. But every time I've tried to hire a recruiter, I'm holding them to the standard of me. And
Mm,
everyone who's performing like I am has started their own business. So that's not fair of me. So I love AI because it's allowed me to start to think about, how can I just multiply my own efforts? Like, is there a way that I can run a 7-figure business where I don't need to hire other recruiters, because I'm able to be so efficient that I can carry $1 million ARR on my own? And the answer now is yes. So I'm at the beginning of figuring all that out, like figuring out what tools I want to use, figuring out how I'm going to source more effectively, screen more efficiently, make sure the only candidates I'm speaking with are definite submits to send over to my client. But now there's tools that make that possible. So I'm thrilled. I'm so excited.
any tools in particular that you've latched onto yet?
Yeah, so my favorite sourcing tool I found so far is Juicebox, and it is super affordable. So LinkedIn Recruiter, I don't know if you use it as a business owner, but they charge you an arm and a leg because there's really no competition. So rather than give literally all my money to LinkedIn Recruiter as soon as my contract with them ends, I'm going to switch over to Juicebox, or maybe there'll be a better tool in the market by then. But that's the best one I found so far for sourcing. I'll be honest, I have not found a good one for screening because everything I found, I think, gives a really bad candidate experience where they're like, okay, this weird robot thing is interviewing me. This doesn't feel personalized. It doesn't feel good. I don't like that. Like, I really would love to find some kind of screening tool that sets the candidate at ease, and I haven't found out what that is yet.
So our experience has kind of been the opposite of that, where I just heard of Juicebox this week, in fact, and
Mm.
we're setting up a demo with them. So
Ah,
I'll get to experience that soon. But we use Converse AI. I don't know if you've tried that or demoed it
no,
at
I'm
all.
writing this down right now. That's your screening tool?
That's our screening tool. It doesn't do everything we'd want, but it solves a problem that's bothered me for years, which is, one click apply is so prevalent now, and we know that, and it's really just made a mess of the application process where you post a job and candidates, there's no level of effort needed for them to just send their resume over or apply to the job. So you end up getting a lot of unqualified candidates. We all know that.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
what I wanted to solve was a first level screen where I was thinking we could do it via email. And this is it was just something that was impossible for me to solve, which seems crazy, where we just have an auto reply that effectively said, thanks for applying. Please confirm the following. You have these skills, you're in this geography, you're at this salary level, whatever it is, right? Just some basic screenings. So that one click apply applicant who knew they weren't qualified for the job would have to actually spend just a couple of seconds of effort, and they wouldn't do it. Odds are, right? They're not going to say,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I meet this criteria if they don't. But I wanted to use that as a baseline before one of our human recruiters actually became engaged with the
Mm-hmm.
applicant.
Mm-hmm.
So Converse solves that. Converse will call, email, and text the applicant as soon as it happens. And it's amazingly effective and powerful.
Now, I have a question about that because we mostly headhunt. Like, very few of the candidates we engage are actively applying for jobs. They're the ones that we're going out and sourcing.
Okay.
Have you found this to be successful with headhunted candidates? Are they willing to do this?
So the candidate acceptance for this is really high, and we haven't seen much of a differentiation between low level, high end candidates, whatever it might be. Where we One thing that Converse doesn't do yet that we'd like it to do is take a hot list of candidates that and then proactively reach out to them, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
really more of a reactive solution today. Um, but to your point, if you're calling one candidate at a time, it's not going to be as effective for you, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that I would recommend it for higher end positions where there's a really small candidate pool. So we
Mm-hmm.
don't see the same benefit across all of our jobs, but
Mm.
as the candidate pool widens, we really see that effectiveness kick in because it allows us to be so much more efficient with reaching 100 candidates, 200 candidates for baseline screening, and then really
Mm.
spending time with the ones who are qualified. And that administrative, it's not administrative time, but it may as well be where you're looking through resumes, trying to find the right candidate, the search time. If you can take all that out of the equation and just have recruiters actually speaking live with candidates, to me, that's
Mm-hmm.
utopia. That's the goal.
I agree. I agree. So I have a sourcer on my team who does that. Like, he reviews all the applicants and he headhunts 20 to 40 profiles per day. He's fantastic. But if I could make him even more, like if he could do that for 100 to 200 candidates a day because he has AI tools undergirding his work, that would be ideal. So I'm intrigued. I'll have to go look into it. Thank you for
Yeah,
the pro tip.
check it out. And it's more of ruling candidates out than it is of
Yeah.
qualifying them. And I think that's a
Yeah.
huge time saver. So
Yep.
yeah, check
I
it out. All
agree.
right, we helped each other with
Thank you.
cool
Yeah, I'll
stuff.
take it. I'll take
Are there,
it.
are there any other tools that you have your eye on?
So those are the two. Well, now I have Converse AI, but Juicebox is my favorite for sourcing. And then for candidate submit notes, I use two different AI tools. I use Firefly's AI. I use to record client intake calls so that my team and I can refer back to them because it records the whole video, but it comes into every platform. So whether you have it on Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google, whatever, it just comes in as like an additional guest. So that's been helpful to have recordings of every single client sales and intake call. And then I use Granola AI because it types up the notes. So I use that for candidate screens. So that types up my notes for me so I can use those as the submits and take out the admin time of having to arduously type everything up.
Now, does that populate in your ATS or do you have to do that manually?
No, I have to do that manually.
Okay. Okay.
But if you have one that populates into your ATS, I'll definitely hear about
We,
that.
no, we don't currently, but there's a product called Quill. I don't know if you've come
I
across that
have
one
heard of
yet.
Quail. Yeah, it's a lot pricier, I'll be honest. That's why I'm
Is
sticking
it?
with granola for now. Yeah.
Okay.
So granola AI and Fireflies both run about $15 a month. So that's why I like them.
Nice.
Yeah.
The
Not
price
bad.
is right. No,
Not
not at
bad.
all.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so where do you think AI is heading? Do you think, are you worried at all about how it's going to impact the job market overall, how it's going to impact our industry?
Not even a little bit. I think it'll just weed out the bad recruiters, like the people who can't assimilate, the people who can't figure out how to use these tools and make their work more effective and more efficient. They'll just leave. And then those of us who do figure out how to use it to be even better at what we're already good at, will just keep killing it.
So is it fair to say then you're not worried because you know you're good enough to survive that, but as
Yeah.
for the market as a whole, I think it's going to reduce the need for the number of recruiters out there and the number of,
100%
you
agree
mentioned
with you.
sourcers, screeners, anyone who's
Yes.
in that role. I think I could see, and this may sound extreme, you may not agree with it, that about 90% of the effort of recruiting that takes humans to do today is going to go away, and we're going to
God, I
just have
hope so.
people
Oh,
handle the
Pete, you
last
and I would bill so much more money if that happened. I hope that happens. That'd be fantastic.
I just think it's inevitable. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
evolution is so rapid, and we're like just talking about Converse. I mean, if you hear the demo or the live conversations it has, it of course identifies that it's AI. But if it didn't, you wouldn't necessarily know during the conversation. It would at least take a while to figure it out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so early in this. I just think it's going to continue to evolve so rapidly, and we're doing things with BD right now. I won't spend too much time. I'm happy to talk to you about it later, but we're doing prospecting emails and that are generated by AI that are just, I you, they're at such a different level of effectiveness and scale than a human could ever do. It's off the
Really? You get a
charts.
good response rate to email?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm shocked to hear that. What percent response do you get on the BD side?
This is early, so it's a tool that we're building with an outside partner,
Okay.
and early results are about 8% response rate.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's higher than average. Average is like 1 to 3. So that's
It's
definitely better.
it's crazy high, especially when you consider humans don't really have to touch it.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
it's set
It
up.
just runs in the background for you. So you're like, why not close a couple new clients from something that's doing the work for me? Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
that.
this is all different, new and different for me. But that leads to what I really wanted to ask you about today, for you in particular, and I think others would benefit from hearing your story, is differentiation.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that is hard to come by in our industry. For at least for many companies, it's
Mm-hmm.
something that we're all asked about, of course, right? What makes you different than your competition? So let's just start with that. What makes you different than all the other recruiters?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one of our company values is alignment, which makes sense because we're called aligned recruiting, recruitment. And so that is how I live my life. Like, I live very authentically. You see me post on LinkedIn about, yes, my story as a business owner, but you also see me post about being a foster parent. You see me post about being a wife. You see me post about getting laid off 5 weeks postpartum. I'm very transparent about a lot of the elements of my story. And that tends to be why I get the high response rates I get when I do reach out to prospective clients and prospective candidates. Like, almost everyone I reach out to now says, oh, yeah, like I saw you on LinkedIn or I heard you on this podcast. So I think just by being honest and being real in an industry that can be pretty buttoned up, I think has really helped me differentiate myself. And then I ask extremely intense questions. Like, when we get on an intake together, uh, I'm going to basically know like your blood type once we get off the call, because I know that's how my team and I are going to go be able to source the best candidates for you. So I was debating back in the day before I decided to go into recruitment. I was debating if I was going to stay in recruitment or if I was going to become a therapist. I actually
Okay.
got into grad school for a therapy program. I'm not even
Okay.
joking. And the reason I stuck with recruitment is, transparently, you can make a shit ton more money than you can as a therapist. So I decided to stick with this. But that energy, like that genuine interest in people and curiosity about people's stories and desire to serve people and help people, I've carried that with me in my recruitment career. And most recruiters I've met just aren't like that. So I think I have these intrinsic qualities that make people want to talk to me, because I ask about them. I want to hear about them. Something that I would love for your audience to start doing: get someone to talk for 4 minutes uninterrupted. Their dopamine will spike. So if you can ask them thoughtful enough questions that they want to talk 4 minutes straight, they will remember that because they'll remember they probably wouldn't put words to it like this, but their dopamine would be higher during your conversation than it typically is. So truly, that's a big thing that differentiates me. And then on the delivery side, like we just get really good candidates in process really quickly. Like one of our North Star metrics is that we have 4 candidates actively interviewing with all of our clients. And these are typically executive level searches within 3 weeks of launching the role.
It's such an interesting statement that you made. I've never heard that or thought of it in that context. But one of the things that I've learned over the years is that by asking questions, you're so much more likable, right? Than if you're talking. And what I encourage my team to do is just put themselves in a situation of like being at a party. If you don't know anyone in the room and you meet someone new and all you do is ask questions of them, where are they from? What do they do? What do they like? What their interests are? And you say nothing about yourself. When you walk away from that conversation, they'll think you're wonderful, right?
Exactly.
Even though you
Yep.
shared nothing about yourself to give them the impression that you're wonderful, but you expressed genuine curiosity and interest in them. And we all want that, right? In our
Yep.
relationships, we all want to feel valued. We want to feel heard. We want to feel respected. And you're bringing that to the business world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's simple, right? I mean, that's the crazy thing. You don't have to feel pressure to tell a story or talk about why you're so good at what you do. You just need to ask. And
Yeah.
it's why do you think more people don't realize that?
Pete, I have no idea. It's so strange to me. I'm like, guys, just be okay. To be transparent, I think it's because a lot of people haven't seen this modeled. So
Mhm.
I think most people in the world aren't very good at asking questions and aren't genuinely curious about other people. So I think that's a big piece of it is they've never seen it modeled, so they haven't been able to learn it. And I've seen this as a consistent quality in the successful founders and CEOs that I've met. Almost all of them are genuinely curious or make you feel like they're genuinely curious. And almost all of them ask a lot of questions and really do want to get to understand and not just ask questions for the sake of checking off boxes. So I think most people don't do it because they don't know how to do it. And the ones who do it are very effective at it.
But isn't that how you learn, right? I mean,
By doing?
by asking
Oh,
and
yes.
finding out from others, right? I mean, look, we both learned something from each other, within 5 minutes of this conversation that
Mhm.
are going to make us better at what we do, or at least give us the opportunity to be better at what we do. If you don't
Mhm.
ask us questions, you're not going to improve. And as it relates to the world of recruiting, I don't know how people effectively take job orders or qualify candidates if they don't go deep. I mean, that is
Same.
something that to me is just 101, right?
Yes, and that's why to your point, 90% of the work we do is going to be automated, and so that 10% of the stuff that requires high emotional intelligence, that is going to make agencies like yours and mine really rise to the top because we do have that skill set. We have learned how to do that.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say then you're not big in the VMS world.
0%. Not in VMS at all.
Okay, fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
what else? I mean, look, you're going up against you're in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
You're going up against. Well, I mean, Insight Global is headquartered there, right? One of the second
There's a huge
biggest.
Randstad office here. Yeah. Yeah. Huge global companies are headquartered here. Yep.
Everyone's there. We know that. So you have to get in the door somehow, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be genuine, to have those conversations, you first have to have the opportunity to interact with someone live. What do you do in there? I mean, that's look, it's really hard. I mean, sales to me and staffing and in most industries, but specifically in ours, is the hardest part of it. Recruiting
Oh, yeah. Totally agree.
relatively is easy. I don't mean to
Yeah.
downplay that. You still have to, be really good and thorough, but you have to get the business first, and that's where most hit a ceiling. And new
Mm-hmm.
people really struggle. I mean, hiring new
Mm-hmm.
and training new salespeople is probably the biggest challenge of most staffing companies. Those who figure it out grow. Those who don't can't.
Mm-hmm.
So what? Why? How are you able to get in the door?
So I'm targeting different clients than the Insight Globals and the Ronstads of the world. So like I said, before I started my business, I was working for a tech recruitment company that solely worked with startups. So
Okay.
I was working with really small companies, really small teams. And that was such a blast that's where I knew I wanted to focus when I opened up my own boutique firm. So my goal is not to go toe to toe with Insight or Ronstad. Like those are not my competitors. My competitors are fellow boutique agencies. And my goal is actually not necessarily to grow. Like, I think once I get to between 1 and 3 million ARR, I'd be really surprised if I decided to grow past that. That is a very, very sweet spot for me, where I want to work with a handful of clients where I personally am directly involved in sales and delivery. I really enjoy being able to do the work I do. So I pride myself on really understanding my niche, which is small B2B SaaS startups, and serving them with white glove service, where you're not just one of thousands of clients that a huge firm has. You're one of a very small handful, and you're getting to interact directly with the CEO and founder, me.
Understood. Now that's limiting, right? You can only be in so many places at any given time. Do you not think at some point you'd want to be able to replicate yourself somehow, even though
Oh
that's
my gosh,
impossible?
Pete, I would love to replicate myself. Who do you know that's as intense as I am? Send them to me, please. I would love to replicate myself.
Yeah, I mean that's such a hard decision, and I'll look forward to following your journey there because when I started by myself, I didn't anticipate that I would have a difficult time replicating myself. Quite frankly, I thought
Yeah.
because sales, I think if you're good at it, it seems very natural. You take some of the things you do for granted. You expect that others should be able to do it,
Yes.
but then you
Pete,
find
that
out
is so relatable. It's been shocking to me that things I assume are like base level competencies people don't have.
no. Why do you think that is?
Pete, we're the cream of the crop, I guess, based on this conversation.
But
You and
I,
I.
but
now,
listen,
now you tell me, because you've been running your business for 20 years. Like, how have you found those absolute rock star A player Pete times 10 people? Where are they? Do you have them on your team?
no, we have a few, but that has been our limiter, and no question about it. That's why I turned to marketing 6 years ago. For the first 13 years I was in business, we did no marketing whatsoever. Our website was 5 pages. I would say stupid things in hindsight, like, "What are you supposed to put on a staffing company website? Like, you need people, we find people. Like, how many
Yeah.
pages does it take? Right? Here's how to contact us." Um, Now our website is tens of thousands of pages, and we have a ridiculous amount of content on there. We've invested heavily time, effort, dollars into it so we can attract inbound business and have those opportunities come to us. I mean, so
Hmm.
I only turn to that out of frustration and almost a concession, quite frankly, that I couldn't figure out how to scale a sales organization, right?
Hmm.
Even though on the surface, it seems like it should be relatively easy, but I have to acknowledge that sales is anything but easy.
It is. It is. And my goal, honestly, like, I'm very content being a founder led sales organization. But I think what's been surprising for me is that I've only hired one recruiter. She was amazing. She was with us for a year and then left for another opportunity. But now her current company is our client, so it all worked out. But I've only had one recruiter that I was delighted with. Everyone else, I've had performance issues. Either they've left or I've had to let them go. I cannot for the life of me find a kick-ass A player rock star recruiter. So what I've done is I'll do splits, like other recruitment agency owners I know. If they have a lower desk, I'll bring them in to work on my recs. I've talked to several other solopreneur-ish type recruiters who have done that and been very successful with that. So I do have a couple of those agreements, which has been very effective because they are similar to us because they're fellow agency owners. But
Yep.
that's obviously not a great like long-term model. Like, I really would like to build out better internal capacity. So I'm on the hunt. I will say my executive coach, Diane Prince, she's a total genius. She and I were on a coaching call yesterday, and her recommendation is that you actually hire people who are doing the job that you're recruiting for. So right now
Okay.
we have a ton of tech sales director roles on our desk. So I'm actually chatting with a couple tech sales reps this week and next week to see if they could be a good fit to come on board as a 360 recruiter for me, where they're recruiting people who are basically them and they're selling our services at Aligned. So that's something I'm trialing. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Good luck. Have you ever heard of or read a book called The E Myth?
No?
So I recommend it. It's basically the premise is that most people who start a business aren't entrepreneurs. We talked about that a little bit ago, but they're technicians. They're someone who felt that they did something really really well. They were a top performer wherever they came from. Does it sound familiar? And they
Mm-hmm.
thought, I can go and do this on my own. I don't need to do this for someone else. and they do. And then they realize that they're not running a business as much as they are the business. Now you
Hmm.
seem like you're content with that, at least for now. I'll check back with you in 5 years to see if that
To see
changed.
if my tune has changed, which it might. Like when I started the business, hear me say, I wanted to scale it to 8 figures. Like this
Yep.
was not this is a new realization where I'm like, wait, the things I value more than anything else, I value flexibility and freedom over revenue.
Yep.
So my focus is on, so I work 30, 35 hours a week. I'm not driving myself into the ground. I have two
Good for
young
you.
kids. I have a marriage that I want to continue to invest in and not burn to the ground either. So that is such a priority for me that's why I have no hesitation about prioritizing those relationships over setting a lofty revenue goal. So all that being said, yes, I'm very open to my priorities shifting as my kids get older and as my life changes. Anyway, keep going with the e-myth.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was as much as anything. I didn't want to. You could sell indefinitely, right? I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to evolve. I wanted to run a business eventually and help others have success and grow and scale. So that was my intention. But you can't do that if you are the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole book is basically. I recommend reading it. I think you'd enjoy it. Is
Mm-hmm.
about how you just um, uh, most of us who start a company have a very difficult time getting out of the way, right?
100%. Because we do unfairly hold our team to the same standard that we hold ourselves to. And I recognize that that's not fair, which is
No,
why I'm debating, do I just let that go and really continue to just simply be a founder led company? Or to your point, do I eventually evolve and become more of an entrepreneur and less of a technician? So like you said, we'll let's have yearly check-ins and see
there you
how
go.
we're both leaning towards that. I'm reading 10x is easier than 2x right now, and that has a similar flavor where
Okay,
it's like you could 2x your business, but you can't 10x it if you're going to be involved in every deal and every client and every delivery model and all that kind of stuff. So I totally hear what you're saying.
it is so much easier said than done. But here is
Oh
the
yeah.
one piece of advice I'll give you, unsolicited. You're not asking for it. Is trust your instinct on this. One of the mistakes that I made was hiring a consultant who I thought knew better, and
Mm,
had us change a lot of the just fundamental things, just core beliefs that I had in terms of what it takes to succeed and what expectation should be on employees. We evolved, we downgraded basically. We were really intense at
mm,
the beginning. So I started with Aerotech in early years. And if you know anything about that company, now the Allegis Group, Tech Systems and IT, it was all under
to-
the Aerotech
Very
brand
intense. Yeah, I've heard a lot about them.
back in the early days. You'll get a kick out of this. My first interview question, I was a senior in college. The guy who interviewed me said, "We work 8 to 8 Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5 on Friday. Should we continue?" And I was like, "Well, I got a poli sci degree, a 2 point something GPA, and $20 in the bank. Yeah, let's go." And
Pete, that is hysterical. Good
it
for
was
them though. They're like right out the gate, this is who we are, get in or get out. I actually love that.
turnover was ridiculous, and
That makes
they
sense.
fully accepted it. I was one
Yep.
of 30 that started in my class. They were hiring, growing like a weed at the time. And I think by the time I got promoted from recruiter to sales, that was the carrot that they dangled, right? Work really hard and figure it out, and you can get promoted to the sales role. It took me about 7 or 8 months to get promoted. And I think there were only 9 people left from the 30 after that.
Wow.
So huge turnover. But you know what? They held true for at least many years to their core beliefs, which is we're going to outwork everyone.
Yep.
We're in a commoditized industry in many cases. Not that they said that back then, but I think that was a premise.
That's what was going on.
And
Yeah.
we're going to outwork everyone. And then people say, well, work smarter. Well, they're going to work smarter too. So now who's going to win?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm working smarter and I'm going to work 20 more hours than you every week.
Yeah.
I'm going to find more candidates. I'm going to produce faster, all the above. And so I have a lot of respect for that. And it was a great thing for me to establish that work ethic really on and early on in my professional life. And I tried to carry that forward with Four Corner. And ultimately, I was
But then when
told,
you hired that consultant, like what shifted? Like what did they recommend that didn't resonate with you?
so we'd already dumbed down our hours. I mean, we worked those kind of hours early, but this was at a time where this was 2014, and there was this whole movement of be more like Google, right? Have toys in the office and make
Mm,
office fun, and you'd see like kegs in the office. That was like stuff all like celebrated on LinkedIn. People doing as much stuff that had nothing to do with work.
Mm-hmm.
as they did with work. And that's just, I don't believe in that. So I believe in, let's work really hard and earn, the right to enjoy our time when we're not working.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I don't, like, this is a long story I won't bore you with, but when I was at Aerotech, you were expected to spend time outside of the office with them. So it wasn't just work until 8, it was work until 8 and then let's go to happy hour for 2
Oh
hours.
my gosh. Eight
I
o'clock is
was
not happy hour. That's bedtime.
It's crazy, right? In hindsight,
That's
but I was
crazy.
single and they would hire all these young people right out of college. And
Smart.
so that was,
That's so smart.
it was at a time you could do it, but I didn't want to do it indefinitely. No one did. But
Yeah.
that th- so the consultant was basically like, Pete, you can't operate that way. You have to be, more like Google. I'm like, I'm Google is Google. I don't have the
You
brand
don't have the brand
Google.
recognition. None of us are Google, so you can't just copy and paste Google.
But I bought into it to some degree, and
Yeah.
we changed, and we started letting things go that we never would have, and our culture
Mm.
shifted in a way that, I wish I'd never done it. So, we've recovered from that. That was a long time ago now, but,
And now are you back to the 8 to 8 schedule?
no, we never were that here.
Okay.
No, it was, but early days, I would say, hey, look, anyone I recruited internally, I would say, you have to be willing to work until at least 7 every night. We won't, but don't come here unless you're willing to do that. Because I
Mm-hmm.
never wanted to have to apologize for someone staying late. The nature of our business is sometimes we do have to work extra hours, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
always wanted the organization to be more flexible where, hey, if you get everything done, go ahead and leave early. Go do the stuff in your personal life that you need to do, but be willing to put your foot on the gas. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where we are today. But look, I mean, we're a 40-hour week by default now. It drives me crazy. I'll admit it. I don't work 40
But that's
hours
good
a
that you
day.
know that. Like, I love that you know that about yourself. Like, it sounds like both you and I really have leaned into what matters to us. Like, how are we going to measure success and not taking someone else's barometer to dictate what that looks like for our business. So I love that you've had that awareness. That's awesome.
Well, I lost it for a while. So that's where
Yeah. So you've
that's what's
recovered it. Let's say you've recovered that awareness, which is
yeah.
amazing.
And to your point about family, I mean, I always look. I have 4 kids. I coached every sport. I've never missed a game. I didn't miss practices. But then I was also willing to, go back and jump online at night at nine
Mm-hmm.
o'clock if I needed to do a couple hours. So that's what I've always wanted was, for myself and others, is to do what you need to do. Like, don't make me look over your shoulder. Don't make me worry about hours that you're working.
Mm-hmm.
Maximize the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so
Agreed.
much easier said than done. But
Yeah. Yeah. There's this book I read years ago about a results based work environment, and I've never forgotten that. Like,
love it.
I truly couldn't care less about how many hours I or someone on my team works as long as you're getting done what you need to get done. And that I think has been what's hard for me to adjust to is that I think a lot of employees do think in terms of hours, they don't think in terms of results. So that's what's tough. Because, yeah, I don't care how many hours you work at all. But these are the KPIs that I need you to hit. These are the places I need to make sure all your recs are in before you log off for the day. And if they're there at noon, like, okay, bye, go have like I don't know, go to the spa. I don't care. But
Right.
if you're not there, then like you can't log on. Like I'm totally with you, Pete. Yeah, if I could just get everyone to have the same expectations for themselves, we'd be golden.
Do you remember the name of the book?
Shoot. Results. It was the acronym was ROWE.
All
Oh,
right.
results only work environment. That was it.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah. Look
Well,
into it.
so you're never going to get people to think like you. We know that. And
No,
operate
right,
like
which is
you.
I'm in the process of letting that go. I'm in that journey.
But establish, once you establish your standard. I mean, my mistake was letting others influence that, and in hindsight, I never should have. I should say, wait,
Mhm.
this is working. This is what we grew 45% in 2000 the year I hired this consultant. 45% at and we were already, over, yeah, I think we were like a 10 or $12 million company going into that year, and so things were working great, and we derailed it all.
Mhm.
So hopefully that doesn't happen. But it sounds like I love where you are with this. I love, you're in your
I have
energy.
a lot of clarity on what I want out of the
Yeah.
business. That's been really helpful for me. And what's cool is so I have the executive coach and then I have several entrepreneur friends. and we all value, because there's a billion different ways to be an entrepreneur.
Yep.
We're all in about the same life stage, and we're all in about the same, like we all have about the same interest. Like they're all million-ish dollar businesses. They're all parents with young kids who want to be super present. All of us are like, they're about to leave and go live in Greece for a year.
That's
We're thinking
awesome.
about doing a digital nomad year where we homeschool our kids. My husband and I both work remotely. So like we're all kind of in that same, like we aggressively value flexibility and autonomy. And then the money like undergirds our lifestyle, and that's it. Like that's what it functions to serve us, not we serve money. That's the
Perfect.
thinking. Yeah.
Money to me is options, right? I mean, you need it to
Mm-hmm.
have more options. If you don't, as when I was broke, I had no options.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. It's so true. I grew up as one of 7 kids, so I never really understood that because we just didn't have a lot, and that was fine. Like we were like, whatever. Our vacations are camping in like a busted up camper. Like,
That's
and I was like, this is so fun. Like my siblings were and still are my best friends. And then I married my husband, who's like the bougiest man who's ever lived. He was raised as one of 2 kids by an anesthesiologist and a software engineer. So we
Oh,
could
wow.
not have grown up more differently. So we get married, and he's like, "All right, we're gonna go out to eat 5 nights a week." And I was like, "What is happening? Like, where am I?" So yes, I didn't even realize the options that exist when you have money until I became an adult. So I totally hear that.
Well, I hope you do that digital nomad year.
Me
We
too.
talked about doing it when my oldest, who's now 25, was in her 8th grade year. So we thought once she gets into high school, it won't be practical to do. And I was obsessed with it for months, and we ended up not doing it for all the reasons that anyone would be held back from not doing it, which are all BS
Can I
reasons.
ask what? What were the reasons you didn't do it?
Just just it's there was not even one specific reason. It was just the complexity of it, or
Yeah,
fear.
it is.
I guess
There's a
fear.
lot of details to think through.
Fear. Just like starting a business, the world doesn't encourage you to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'll find select few people who will, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just it seems like it's not what you're supposed to do, right?
Hmm.
It's odd. It's unusual. It's not as unusual as it was 10 years ago. It's
Mm-hmm.
becoming more common, but I will always regret it because it's time you can never get back, right?
I
And
know. Could you go now?
so I'm in a different situation now. My youngest is now going to be a senior in high school next year,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so unfortunately, my kids are they're all off doing
Yeah,
other
they won't
things.
go with you,
They
but you
can't
could
do.
go adults only. I don't
Well,
know.
that's
That
our
could be
plan.
fun.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
100%. We're planning to kind of go live in different cities for a month at a time,
that's
um,
awesome.
beginning next September, and go somewhere for a month, come back here.
Pete, you're
We'll
doing it. I love that.
we'll get there, but to do it with my kids, to do it when they were young, we always made time for a great vacation. So I don't have any regrets there. But and spent more than I should have right, on them
I
consciously,
get it. I
consciously.
get it. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but we did all the things because I didn't do that stuff growing up either, and that was one of
yeah.
my life motivations. And starting a business was I wanted to be able to take the ski trips and
Mm-hmm.
to go wherever we wanted to go, and we did it. And again, I overspent, and it was fiscally irresponsible, but zero
Mm.
regrets on doing that. So I really
Mm-hmm.
hope you do it, man. I would I'm gonna be super
It's
envious, but
no, I know, right? Maybe I won't tell you if we do it because you'll be sad. But
I don't know, something tells me you won't be able to keep that quiet socially
I
if you do.
know, you know me. I'll post about it like every day on LinkedIn for the year that we do it.
But
Yeah, we're in talks right now about putting up our house on furnished finders where you can get people to rent it long term. And then we would just stay in furnished finders around the country. My brother's doing that right now in Hawaii. He and his girlfriend have been there for 6 months, and they're living their best life. So we're excited.
Very cool. Well, there's another
Yeah,
staffing company owner, a friend of mine named Patrick Surmeyer. He did it a couple years ago,
good for
and
him.
traveled around. So if you ever want to connect with Patrick, I'm happy
Yeah.
to introduce
I've
you
talked to
guys.
people that have done it without kids, but not someone who's done it with young kids. So if he did it with young kids, I would love to talk to him.
He did two kids. So,
Great.
seems
Great. Same
similar.
life. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun to watch their journey. So
Yeah.
I hope you do it. Well, cool. All right. So I could keep you all day. We're actually recording, which I kind of forgot. This is supposed to be a
We're just
podcast
chatting. We're just 2 business owners and parents and just living our lives.
about differentiation. I mean, so how you differentiate yourself is very clear to me, which is you. You are the differentiator, and
Yeah.
unfortunately for us, who if you want to scale you can't replicate yourself. It's
Correct.
impossible.
That's why
Um,
I love AI because I can replicate my work while still having me be like the personal brand. So that's kind of where that's where my strategy is right now.
Absolutely. Well, it's great that you're succeeding. It's not a surprise to me after spending time now, getting to know you a little bit on why you're succeeding. But I also know that that's rare. That someone who has the not only the potential, from a personality standpoint, but a willingness to put themselves out there like you're doing, and it may be a little scary at first. But any advice to people who are just held back from doing that? I mean, many are.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, it's funny. I talk to a lot of people who are held back. And I think, like you just said, it's fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of the instability. So I honestly think you have to shift your thinking like I did. You have to understand having a W 2 job is actually less stable than being an entrepreneur. And you have to undergird your work with discipline. Like, hear me say, if you can have a super bubbly personality but you're not disciplined, don't bother. You'll go broke in like 10 minutes. Like, don't do it. But I think if you have the combination of you're confident, you're disciplined, and you're willing to learn, then there's no reason you shouldn't do it. And you will actually be very successful if you have those three qualities. My favorite quote is, if you refuse to learn, no one can help you. If you're determined to learn, no one can stop you.
I love it. What a perfect
Right?
quote. What a perfect way
Right?
to end. So thank that is we can't top that. And
We
it's
can't top that.
yeah,
We'll leave it there.
it is 1,000% accurate. So
Yeah.
so Julia, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I really am glad we were able to do this today, headphones and all. So
Yes, me too, Pete. Thank you for having me. I really loved it.
all right, we'll check in next year and see where you are then.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.